Okay, good night everyone. We're going to start with the conference number 16 that is called the observation of oneself. It's also called the self-observation. So the objective in this conference is to know and to develop this sense that allows us to make radical changes. This sense is atrophied in the dark ages of this human race. No one in this time knows how to solve their problems without blaming someone else. Everyone is really identified in criticism, judging other people, and doesn't know how to direct consciously the attention toward the inner world. So in this conference, we are going to know how to develop this sense that is really atrophied, how to solve our problems by looking into our inside. So first of all, it's really different to know and to observe. You can know that you're sitting in a chair, but that doesn't mean that you're observing how you're sitting, what you're feeling, what you're thinking in the moment that you're sitting in that chair. In order to know that, you need to direct your attention consciously into your interior. For example, if you're sitting in a chair in a conference and it's a really boring conference, you're just thinking, oh, when is it going to end up? This is really long. I have to get home. I have to prepare lunch. So you immediately are going to start observing yourself and perceiving the different voices that you have inside yourself that are thinking and are feeling unpleasant emotions and are talking within yourself. But if you know passively that you are sitting in that chair, that you are just listening there, you're not putting attention to what's happening inside yourself. It is really exterior. You're just perceiving the conference, but you're mechanically there and not looking into yourself at what you're thinking, you're feeling, or what you are saying inside yourself. Another example is, for instance, when you criticize someone and you dislike him, you feel unconscious antipathy towards someone. You just don't like that person and you don't know why. You're going to start hearing the multitude of thoughts, emotions, and the unpleasant taste that it leaves in your psyche when you just don't like someone. You're just going to, when you observe yourself, maybe you're going to identify an ego of vanity that is thinking, oh, I don't like that person because he's wearing awful shoes. He doesn't know how to dress. He is really unpunctual. He doesn't get to conference on time, so I don't like him. But it's because you're starting observing yourself. If you just conform yourself with knowing that you don't like that person, but you don't search for the reason why you don't like that person, you're going to think you know everything, but you're not going to observe yourself. So also, when you're in a negative state, you think you know yourself because you know that you are depressed, you know that you're sad, you know that you don't like going outside your home that day, you rather stay at home that day. But if you did the exercise of observing yourself, you would maybe perceive that you are bored because you didn't have a good day at work, because your boss said to you that you didn't do a nice job, that you were clumsy doing things, so you're really depressed because of that. But if you observe yourself, you're going to perceive the causes of those emotions or those negative thoughts that are going to feed a bad emotion like depression, like being in an unpleasant state of mind. and you're going to perceive those details. So really knowing something is not the same as observing, because knowing is passive. You don't really put attention or direct your attention into yourself or perceiving what happens inside of you. For example, in the case that we mentioned that you felt antipathy towards someone, you, for example, feel antipathy towards your boss. You're treating him inside of you really bad. You're thinking, I want to have revenge. I want to tell him that he's really proud, that he's really tyrant. So in yourself, there are many thoughts, feelings, and words that you want to say, but you're quiet. So you're going only to perceive your own inner worlds once you direct your attention active towards yourself. So to achieve self-observation, you're going to have to see two perspectives. When you are in the perspective of the observed, you are identified with the thoughts and emotions you are feeling negatively towards someone. For example, that you are criticizing your neighbors because they are really loud, that you are thinking about insulting them because they put the music too loud, they play those awful songs that you don't like. So you're looking towards your exterior, and you are feeding the ego of disliking, of insulting, of saying bad things to other people, and you are not observing yourself. In that dynamic attention, in that case, for example, you're not going to criticize your neighbors, but you're going to use a critical judgment towards yourself. When have I played awful music loudly? Oh, I remember that party which I made in my apartment, that I had a really loud music that my neighbors didn't like, so I identified that I am the same thing that I criticize on my neighbors. So you are going to take a look into yourself, and you're going to be the observer of your inner worlds. You are going to discover all that psychological trash that you have in yourself and that you think that you don't have because you're feeling so good. And you, instead of observing people and be the judge of people, you're going to be the observer of yourself and going to critically judge yourself to know how many times you have acted the way you don't like with people. You're treating people the way you don't like to be treated, and you're going to discover in which way you do that. Also, it's really useful to differentiate between to think and to observe. You can give the luxury to think whatever kind of good things about you, that you're the best citizen, that you're the best colleague, that you're the best parent, that you're the best member of family, because you have a lot of concepts. Oh, I am good because I pay my taxes on time. I am good because I go to church. I am good because I studied in the university and I have a lot of theories and ideas in my mind. I'm really intelligent. So you can think about yourself, whatever kind of things about why you are so good, you're so proud, you're so intelligent, you're so moral. But it's really different to think that to observe yourself. If you're thinking that you're immediately good, like a saint, you're not observing yourself in the different times that your egos come out. There are many times in which you are going to identify yourself with negative thoughts and emotions, and your egos are going to come out and express themselves. For example, if you think you are a good neighbor because you take your trash out, because you don't leave your pet to poop in any place, and it comes out that your neighbor next door leave the pet to poop next to your door, and you're feeling that your neighbor is awful, that he is just trashy, that he is dirty. You're critically judging externally your neighbor. You're thinking he's a really bad and you are a really good neighbor. So you're observing the egos that criticize, that judge your neighbor. Maybe you are identifying an ego that wants to insult the neighbor, tell him that he is a really dirty person, that he is a really unmoral person because he leaves the pet to poop next to your door. You are understanding that it's an ego because you're feeling proud, you're feeling superior to the neighbor because you don't do that. You always pick up the poop of your dog and you don't do that. So you're feeling proud, you're feeling superior to your neighbor, and you understand that sometimes you don't remember to take the trash out the day that it is. Sometimes you're not perfect. Sometimes you do the same as your neighbor. So you understand. You can put your shoes in yourself in the shoes of your neighbor, and you understand that you're not perfect. So you eliminate that ego that wants to get revenge, that wants to gossip, to criticize that neighbor with the other neighbors of your block, to do something to get revenge. For example, leaving a note, a really angry note in the door, insulting him. You eliminate the ego that wants to get revenge. So you start to apply a technique that is called the psychological death. And the psychological death is something that can only be achieved through self-observation. When you self-observe yourself, you see the egos that are acting unconsciously in your mind, that are taking control of your human machine. For example, you mechanically react, you feel the need to get revenge, and you are going to see the ego that wants to insult, the ego that wants to gossip, the ego that wants to talk trash about someone, that wants to ruin the reputation of your neighbor so that you can get revenge, and all of that. But that kind of observation can only be achieved once you stop thinking of yourself that you are so good. You have the concept that you are an excellent neighbor, an excellent parent, an excellent citizen, and you start to see yourself as you really are in all the instance. For example, you are going to observe yourself how you are when your, for example, husband or wife criticizes you, when he or she shouts at you. What egos come out? You're going to see yourself as you really are. Perhaps you feel really humiliated if your husband criticizes you in public, so you're going to see the ego that wants to shout at him, that wants to tell him, yeah, you don't get to treat me this way, etc., etc., that wants to shout back, that wants to insult back. And you're going to see that what you think about yourself wasn't really real, that you weren't so good as you thought you were. You're going to get to observe really your inner worlds and eliminate with the begging to your Divine Mother. Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego that wants to insult, to take revenge, to shout, to yell, to talk trash about someone. Why are you going to beg to your Divine Mother? Because the Divine Mother is the force of love. It's a superior law that can transcend all of that, all of the ego, that can take the 97% of conscience that is trapped in the psychological flaw and liberate it. Eliminate that psychological flaw and liberate the conscience trapped. Is the force of love, and the Father, as you know, is the force of wisdom. So That's why we beg to the Divine Mother to eliminate those egos. Also, is we need to perceive that we live simultaneously in two worlds. We think we are only one and we live in only the physical and exterior world because it's the only thing that we can perceive with our five senses. It's the only thing that we can observe with our sense of smell, touch, with the audition, and only we can perceive the superficial part of our outer world. But we are going to develop a superior sense that is called the self-observation of our inner world. We are going to awaken our conscience and we're going to perceive the superior dimensions. There are 7 bodies that we can create to explore the superior dimensions of the planet and of the universe. It is said, as the Greeks said, "Man, know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods." We can achieve that. We don't know that, but we can achieve that through the power of self-observation that is atrophied, as I said, is atrophied in mankind lately because we tend to see the mirror in other people. We tend to criticize them and we tend to see the darkness in our brothers and sisters, but the darkness is within us, within our inner world. So we need to awaken that power to see the darkness and eliminate the darkness in us. So the observation is different than the self-observation. Both require attention, but the observation directs the attention to the external world, to the use of the five senses. We can see the sun, the planets, the microscopic beings that live within us with a microscope. We can see the atoms, the cells, and all of that with the scientific advantages that we have in the official science. But we can age in that and never achieve an inner transformation, an inner radical transformation that will achieve us to perceive the superior dimensions of the universe. We could be gods if we wanted to. We can unleash the power that is trapped in us with our faculties, forces, and powers of dominating and having the conscience to rule and create universes. But how is that? You may think that that's impossible, that was only achieved by masters as Buddha and Jesus, but we can do it if we start to observe ourselves and perceive our inner worlds. An inner transformation can be possible if we start fighting our ego. And how are we going to do that? We are going to develop superior senses that start with the self-observation of oneself. You're just going to perceive when you're angry, when you're lustful, when you're anxious, when you're nervous, when you're scared, when all of those multiple aspects of your ego are taking control of you, and you are going to deny that destructive power of ego that is causing you a lot of karma, that is causing you a lot of, well, enslavery, because you're enslaved of your desire. You're going to free yourself. So you're going to see that you live simultaneously in those two worlds, in the external and the internal world. Of course, you're just perceiving the external and superficial, and you think that is the only thing that is real. But when you achieve the power of concentration, you get to know your inner world. You, by an astral projection, through an astral projection, you can perceive other things. You're going to have a real experimentation of those inner worlds, and you are going to start fighting for an inner transformation. You're going to want to speak to your spiritual part, because you're going to make conscious what the universe that you have inside of you. You're going to fight against your moon, your interior moon, that are your egos, and you're making conscious the universe that you have within yourself. That inner transformation is going to lead you to perceive superior knowledge, which is in other dimensions. There are temples of science, there are temples of arts, of uh, medicine in the superior dimension, and you could spiritually achieve that if you work within your inner world and perceive all the action of ego and start to be radical with it and eliminate it. So, uh, well, the starting point of the official science is the observable, as we know, and the starting point of the science of the awakening of conscience is the self-observable. So you need to be aware of what's inside of you and dominate yourself. You're going to be the master of your own universe, and lately, after that, after you master your own universe, the fire, the water, the air, the I'm missing something. The fire, the water, the air. Well, all the elements within your inner world, you are going to conquer the ones that are outside of you. But that is only with the purpose to awaken your conscience and to help mankind build something that is really mysterious to us, that is love. We don't understand what is love because we don't know our spiritual part, we don't know our being, but we're going to little by little get to know it with time and experience what is the purpose of our existence, that is to achieve the self-realization of our being, or awakening the 100% of conscience. So when you observe the outer world and you have a lot of information about official science, or about how mechanical things work, like physics, like science, like mathematics, you know the external phenomena, you know the relation with the external world and how to make things work, but it's different with the inner world. In the inner worlds, you can perceive something that is transcendental, something that is higher to the higher related to the third dimension. The superior dimensions of this universe are something that is really light. You don't feel the heaviness of ego. Is something that is really, well, you should experience it for yourself with the astral projection, uh, and you're going to feel, well, the pleasure that means to be astral projecting in a fifth dimension, in the sixth dimension. Well, it feels like you're one with your being, that you're really free of those laws that oppress us in this world, the laws of suffering, the laws of pleasure, the mechanical of feeding your psychological flaws so much to a point that you're really suffering and you don't know how to get rid of that. So the inner worlds are some mysterious places that we don't know. As we have the abyssal depths of the sea in this planet, we also have the abyssal depths of our inner world. And Well, we will get to know the universe and the gods when we know the God that is inside of us, our inner God, because we have a lot of virtues that are trapped in our psychological flaws. But first, we need to get rid of those heaviness to get to know superior creatures that inhabit superior worlds. So we need to start that psychological work in order to get to experience that inner change that is going to allow us to get in touch with our spiritual part and get to know our being, the wisdom of our being, our purpose of the existence, because the purpose of the existence is not just living mechanically and dying, accumulating richness, accumulating objects, titles, degrees, because we die and that doesn't mean anything. We're going to get a new physical body again and repeat it all over again. Or we're going to disintegrate the egos mechanically in the infra dimensions of the planet. But what frees us from this mechanical samsara is working in ourselves, in our inner worlds. We need to give that possibility to our being, because we only have 108 possibilities with a physical body as humans. So that's only uh, going to happen if we know how to differentiate external knowledge with the internal knowledge. We know that the laws of the physical world are really heavy. The physical world works with the materialism and the laws of money, the loss of having and working. When we work, we know that our vital body gives the energy to that activity. For example, we work as carpenters. We need to spend an amount of hours working in a piece of wood in order to have a table. We give our vital energy to that duty. We have to spend certain amount of time in that week working in order to earn a salary, which is going to get us something to eat and something to live with that money. But we are just wasting our vital energy in that. We are enslaved to the laws of the physical world, just feeding our physical body and working to feed ourselves. We could save us from those mechanicals of working to feed ourselves and feeding ourselves with our physical work that is really mechanical. We could experience a lot of lightness in our intimate world. Maybe our being is going to get in touch with us and say to us the best way to not spend so much our vital energy in a physical world, but doing something that allows us to fulfill our physical need, but also giving us the time to work on ourselves, to see our psychological part, because sometimes people are so enslaved to work that they barely have the time to just get themselves into bed and wake up the next day again to work. So your being is going to free you from that mechanical and give you the time to get to know your intimate world. Once you experience the self-observation of yourself and want to transform you, if you have that will, if you have that purpose, your spiritual part is going to get in touch with you and will tell you what to do. But you need to first get to work on yourself and deny yourself that force of ego. Start working on the psychological death. Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego of revenge, this ego of gossip, and in all the time, in all the instance of your life, deny yourself to the ego, to the force of distracting other people, just achieving your pleasure and just don't caring about anything else, you're going to deny that, and you're going to experience superior sensations, superior knowledge is going to get in touch with you, and something is going to inner change in you. You're going to experience directly those inner changes, and you're going to have the direct experimentation with your spiritual part. For example, in a meditation, you can remember past lives, you can see a psychological flaw in another existence, you can get in touch with masters of superior temples, ask them, for example, the master Anubis of the divine law, you can ask him whatever you need to do to self-realize your being. So this is a really the most valuable tool you have to exploring the universe and the gods. First, working in your inner God that's inside of you but is trapped, is bottled up like a genius. So you're going to differentiate between the exterior and the interior kind of knowledge once you acquire a magnetic center of gravity. What does it mean? That you're going to gravitate around the spiritual part. You're just not going to gravitate all the time around materialism, around the superficial, around the external, around having more, around being superior to others. You're just going to search for your own being and awaken the power of your spiritual part. That will of awakening that is going to give you the power of maintaining yourself in a state of being alert, of being awakened and not asleep, of being observing yourself all time and perceiving what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you want to say to people, what you did. Sometimes you don't even remember what you did the day before. You're so slept, you're so unconscious that you didn't remember how you insulted your husband or wife, and you forget what you said to him or to her. So you're going to awaken the power of being conscious all time. But how do you do that? Well, with the technique of self-observation. When you have a problem or in any situation, for example, you have a discussion, you're going to observe yourself. What do I want to say to that person? Oh, I want to say him, don't bother me, etc., etc. I want to insult. I want to leave home and come back in a week, etc. So you are going to see all the egos inside of you, how they manipulate your human machine, and you're going to deny them by the power of love. The power of love is when you beg to your divine mother, the figure that represents the power of love within yourself, that is the superior law. You're going to ask that superior law, Divine Mother, eliminate me this ego that wants to leave home and come back in a week. Why do I want to do that? Then you start to reflect on that. Why do I want to do that? Because I can't stand that man, I can't stand that woman, for example. So you think, but why can't I stand him? It's because I don't like that he criticizes me, he tells me how to cook, he doesn't like how I cook, etc., etc. I put so much effort in pleasing him with food and he doesn't like that, so I'm really fed up. So you start to eliminate, you feel, for example, that you're getting upset just because you don't feel recognized. That is an ego of self-consideration. So you beg to your Divine Mother, oh, Divine Mother, please eliminate me this ego of self-consideration, this ego that sees herself as a victim all the time. And you're starting to do radical changes, and you start changing your behavior and not feeling that emotion again. You're going, in that case, well, just eliminate that, and another behavior is going to come up. Not an ego, but a virtue, the virtue of patience, for example. Well, this is the conference. Uh, how to self-observe yourself, how to get to know your inner world. If you have any question, any suggestion, anything you want to add, we're willing to hear you, and we're going to be uploading more conferences as time passes. Thank you for your attention and have a good night.